Hello Internet, I'm the Disney Brain and welcome to the Girl Meets World of You. Last time around, it was Riley versus Topanga in an emotionally potent episode. This time, almost a complete 180 in terms of tonality. Spoiler warning now, you all know the drill. With all that said, let's dive into Girl Meets Hollyworld. We start things off with Maya and Riley reaffirming their friendship as we discover that Maya literally kidnapped a woman. Wow, how's that for quick escalation? So after Riley is kind of forced into Maya's latest crime, she realizes that the woman Maya kidnapped is a famous French movie star named Anastasia Bellagere. So they tend to her needs because Katie is auditioning for a part in a new movie that is literally her life, and Maya doesn't want her mother to get beaten out by a big name celebrity. Soon, it's discovered that Anastasia is actually an old friend of Katie's named Bobby Joe. They used to be best friends back in Arkansas before Bobby Joe got big and famous, and that fame changed her in some not so subtle ways, including losing touch of Katie. This situation presents a clear and ominous look into the potential future for Riley and Maya, since there was a time when Katie and Bobby Joe would have also done anything for each other. Later, we're in the classroom where it's career day, with Sarah's father being introduced for the first time. And as fate would have it, he's the director in charge of the movie that Katie is auditioning for, which is an idea cultivated by the omnipresent Sarah, who doesn't always talk, but is always watching. So Katie and Bobby Joe are talking things out at the Matthews residence, and oh dear lord. Well, still better than the babysitter rap battle. But whether you appreciated this performance or not, it proves to be a genuine moment between long-lost friends who did miss each other, despite some evidence to the contrary on the part of Bobby Joe. And then we get a pretty amazing scene, maybe Cheryl Teixeira's best so far in the series, as she essentially plays Katie Hart while playing Katie Hart and delivers a captivating monologue about her life and how the good times and the bad have all led to this moment. After that, Bobby Joe declines to match that audition and tells Katie to try and keep Hollywood and the fame that comes with it from changing her as it did to Bobby Joe. We then get a couple of scenes with Farco, Lucas, and Zay that are all about them applying for movie roles, and each one of those scenes are pretty hilarious in their own right, if not a tad ridiculous. And that's Girl Meets Hollyworld, a fairly frenetic 22 minutes that is a little all over the place, especially compared to other episodes that also have a singular plot focus. It kind of has the tone of a season 1 episode for the first couple of minutes until the pieces slowly start falling into place, and then we see what this particular story is really all about. We're once again tackling the general Season 3 theme of change, but this time handling it from a futuristic perspective by giving Riley and Maya a peek into what a lost friendship actually looks like. And like Mr. Matthews correctly points out much later on, it's not all that abnormal. But since we know that future Riley and Maya turn out okay because of Girl Meets Bay Window, there's not too much to worry about. This was a nice idea for an episode because it allowed the often touched upon acting aspirations of Katie to receive some actual focus, but it felt like there was a lot missing here. For example, Sean is supposedly married to Katie, and Katie herself hasn't been the focus of anything since Girl Meets I Do. So, this would have been a perfect chance to have the pair actually be married, something that this series to this point seems hesitant to actually show. I praise the series for bringing back Sean the way they did in Upstate, but so far, he's had more impact as Maya's friend in Season 2 than Maya's stepfather in Season 3, and that just feels a little off. In addition, the very wrong thing Maya did to help her mom is never really addressed. Since it just so happens to be a friend of Katie's, it's not really a big deal, but Maya didn't know that when she kidnapped her. Also, I think they could have done something much more subtle than giving a country girl a French accent and having that equate to the dangers of fame. I felt that they could have given us a lot more insight into how the pair grew up and used that as a springboard for how fame supposedly changed Bobby Joe. And that ties into my next point. I really wasn't a fan of Katie and Bobby Joe reuniting so easily. Don't get me wrong, I think they both performed admirably in this episode, and their friendship never really struck me as disingenuous, but my reasoning behind not wanting them to reunite is because that would have made for a much better teaching moment and an indirect Boy Meets World parallel. In Boy Meets World, as we know, Corey and Topanga end up married. But there was a time late in Season 6 where in response to Topanga's parents getting divorced, Topanga questioned how Corey and her could ever last. This could have been something similar to that, but with friendship, since friendships break down at an even higher rate than marriages. And if Riley and Maya could have directly experienced that, then their friendship becomes that much stronger as a result. Again, what we got here wasn't too bad, but it was a fairly easy resolution, and it left me wishing for a bigger challenge for the pair of friends to overcome. But a lot of the zany and over-the-top aspects of this episode do produce some funny moments. It was almost fourth wall breaking with how self-aware some of the jokes were, which is a comedic style this show hasn't really used in Season 3 to this point, so it was a nice change of pace on that front. All in all, I thought Girl Meets Hollyworld was a fun little episode that didn't really challenge the leads or the viewership too much, but it was a nice reprieve given the heavy emotions that largely defined the last episode. Definitely could have been much better with a few key changes in certain areas, but it was a nice idea with some fun, wacky moments. I don't think this episode will end up being too important down the line, and this girl is still nowhere to be found, unfortunately. but it did have a certain charm to it, so I did enjoy it, despite some of my points against it. And to be honest, I kind of like "Zay what" as a catchphrase. I'm kind of hoping it pops up in other episodes. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this review, throw it on a like, sub for more, and share it with all of Hollywood. And don't forget to follow Disney Brain on Facebook and Twitter for updates. Links down below. The Wendy review is almost finished, so that will likely be up by Sunday at the very latest, unless the new Liv and Maddie episode gives me something to talk about. And then we'll jump into Swindle right before we jump into Thanksgiving. So, lots to look forward to. Until then...
Say what?
Hold on, do that again.
Say what?
Now next.